All right, so today we're going to dive into this really powerful idea. And it kind of cuts against everything we're ever taught about success. What if being replaceable isn't a weakness at all? What if it's actually a truth that's designed to free us from all that pressure to be indispensable?
I mean, you know that feeling, right? That sense that if you take your foot off the gas for just a second, the whole thing's gonna fall apart. That you're the only one really holding things together, the only one who truly gets it. It is such a heavy burden. And that is exactly where our story begins today.
And that brings us to this quote from the prophet Elijah. Now, this isn't just him venting or having a bad day. This is a cry of absolute, total despair. In his mind, it's a fact. He is the last faithful person standing against this impossible wave of opposition, and he's pretty sure his time is about to run out.
So you have to ask, how did such a powerful figure end up in this place? I mean, this guy is a major player. Well, it's a classic story, really. It's about burnout, it's about fear, and it's about what happens when your perspective gets dangerously twisted.
So get this, Elijah is fresh off this huge career-defining victory on Mount Carmel, and the very next thing that happens, he's running for his life from Queen Jezebel. He ends up hiding out in a cave, totally alone, totally exhausted, and he just looks at the whole situation and concludes, well, I failed. I'm the only one left. It's over.
And that right there is the psychological trap, isn't it? When you believe you're the only one, the only competent person on the team, the only visionary in the company, the only one in the family who really gets it, the pressure is just immense. Failure feels final. So Elijah's crisis wasn't just about the external threat, it was about this crushing internal weight of believing he was completely irreplaceable.
So Elijah is in this cave, pouring out his heart, totally convinced he's all alone. But the answer he gets, well, it's not what you'd expect. At all. It's a complete reframing of his entire reality.
See, instead of just, patting him on the back and saying, there, God offers a correction, a huge perspective shift that challenges the very foundation of Elijah's despair.
The answer is just a number. 7,000. God tells Elijah basically, hey, by the way, I've got 7,000 others that you know nothing about, who haven't given up. Now, this isn't just a head count. This is a revelation. And this is where we get what you could call the principle of the 7,000. The idea here is that Elijah's biggest mistake was thinking the entire mission, the whole operation, rested only on his shoulders. The plan was always way bigger, with a whole bench of players he didn't even know existed.
And you know what? This wasn't a one-time thing for Elijah. This whole idea, this principle of replacement, it shows up again and again. It's kind of like this constant reminder that any position we hold is a privilege. It's not some permanent right we've earned.
Okay, so take King Saul, right? Israel's very first king. When he starts going off the rails and being disobedient, guess what? He wasn't indispensable. God already had his replacement lined up, a shepherd kid named David, someone nobody even had on their radar. One is removed, another is anointed.
And this pattern just keeps going. Fast forward to the New Testament. When Judas Iscariot abandons his role as one of the 12 apostles, that spot doesn't just stay empty. Nope. The others immediately look for a replacement, and a guy named Matthias is chosen to fill the gap. The work had to continue.
Then you've got the Apostle Paul, who comes up with this incredible metaphor of an olive tree. He talks about some of the natural branches being broken off because of their unbelief, and then these wild branches being grafted in through faith. It's this living, dynamic thing. No branch has a guaranteed spot forever.
But maybe the most intense example comes from John the Baptist. He goes right after this idea of entitlement. He warns people not to get comfortable just because of their family tree, saying that God's plan is so big he could literally create followers out of a pile of rocks if he wanted to. Nobody is irreplaceable. Okay, so we've seen this pattern pop up over and over. What in the world does this recurring theme of being replaceable actually mean for us today? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful application for our own lives, and it can totally shape how we see our jobs, our roles, and our value.
So, if nobody is truly indispensable in the grand scheme of things, how is that supposed to change our attitude? At work, in our families, on our personal missions? Does it make us feel insecure, or could it actually be the key to a much healthier perspective on everything?
Well, it seems to boil down to these 4 big mental shifts. First, we got to reject that pride that whispers, it all depends on me. Then, avoid envy, because there's plenty of room and talent to go around. Third, stay faithful where you are, because there's always someone else ready to step in. And finally, and this is the big one, just be grateful for the chance you have to be part of the work, right here, right now.
So at the end of the day, this whole idea, it's not meant to make us feel insecure or unimportant. It's actually about the opposite. It's about helping us realize that the opportunity we have is precious, and it's not sustained by our own singular importance, but by our faithfulness and by a spirit of gratitude.
And that really leaves us with this one last thing to chew on. Does the idea that you are not the only one, that you're actually replaceable, does that feel like a threat to your ego? Or could it actually be the most profound relief you've ever felt? A true liberation from that crushing, modern pressure to be everything, to everyone, all the time?